Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. Jim Wetzel, 2000 block in Nottingham. First, Madam Mayor, I'd like to ask if I could, please, for a temporary suspension of your 5-minute time frame. I've sat quietly in the back of these chambers every other Tuesday for the last 3 years, and I'd like to hope that I've earned the opportunity to say a few words to you and the community. I shouldn't be much more than the 5-minute time limit.
Mr. Lubin, do we need to actually take council action on that?
I would suggest you make a motion to suspend your rule in that regard with a vote of council.
Okay, the chair would entertain a motion to suspend the 5-minute rule.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Pacheco, seconded by Council Morgan. This isn't a debatable.
No.
Okay. Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
All members voting aye, motion passes.
Please continue.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members of council. So it is with much trepidation that I come before you today to speak as a mere citizen of Casper. And I say with trepidation because what I've been witness and victim to over the last several months in our city government has been nothing short of frightening. And it is of a course of heinous and abusive conduct that I fear could befall any citizen of this community, and no doubt may even continue to target me after I say what I say and step down from here. I've spent my entire adult life under an oath of service to our great country and to my community, an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, bearing true faith and allegiance to the same, and furthermore, as a Casper police officer, to support and comply with the Constitution and laws of the state of Wyoming, the charter laws and ordinances of the city of Casper, the rules and regulations of the Casper Police Department, and the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics. As I'm sure many of you do not know what the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics says, I'll summarize the more pertinent elements of it. As a law enforcement officer, my fundamental duty is to serve the community, to safeguard lives and property, and to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against violence or disorder, and to respect the constitutional rights of all to liberty, equality, and justice. I will keep my private life unsullied as an example to all and will behave in a manner that does not bring discredit to me or my agency. I will maintain courageous calm in the face of danger, scorn, or ridicule, develop self-restraint, and be constantly mindful of the welfare of others. Honesty in thought and deed in both my personal and official life, I will be exemplary in obeying the law and the regulations of my department. Whatever I see or hear of a confidential nature or that is confided in me in my official capacity will be kept ever secret unless revelation is necessary in the performance of my duties. I will never act officiously or permit personal feelings, prejudices, political beliefs, aspirations, animosities, or friendships influence my decisions. I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of public faith, and I accept it as a public trust to be held so long as I am true to the ethics of police service. I will never engage in acts of corruption or bribery, nor will I condone such acts by other law enforcement officers. I know that I alone am responsible for my own standard of performance, and I will constantly strive to achieve these objectives and ideals, dedicating myself before God to my chosen profession, law enforcement. I've been asked repeatedly why I have not stood up to defend myself against the unending daily and weekly onslaught of despicable character assassination. First and foremost is because of the oath I just read to you, an oath in which I firmly believe and to which to me is non-negotiable. It was never appropriate that as chief of police I throw away decorum of the office and act in the same contemptible and inexcusable manner of my attackers. Secondly, there's a time to speak, a time to be quiet, a time to act, and a time to let processes run their course. I believed, now mistakenly believed, in something called due process. Although I've been in law enforcement for nearly 2 decades, I've recently gained a new appreciation of this fundamental concept and principle of procedural due process, the idea of which aims to protect an individual from unfair or arbitrary treatment and afford them the right to sufficient notice, the right to an impartial arbiter, the right to give testimony and admit relevant evidence in their defense. We unfortunately live in a world of immediate gratification. Because of that, one only has to make an accusation and it will stick. Some refer to it as fake news. Within this realm, wicked individuals only have to be the first to sling an accusation, whether there is any truth to it at all, and they already have half their denigrating defamation battle won. Over the last 3 years, I watched countless individuals come forward making a variety of claims, statements, and accusations. And I've watched the majority of you time and time again validate or invalidate the credibility of statements and accusations within a matter of mere seconds after hearing them, demonstrating no critical thinking and effectively nullifying any application of due process for the accused. One simply has to say it, and to you it magically becomes gospel truth, especially if it's politically expedient and brings you favor and likes on social media. Enter the Fraternal Order of Police survey. I have sought to choose my words carefully concerning the survey. Although I did not appreciate the actions and conduct of the FOP leadership, which I will expound upon here more in a moment, I do not want to alienate officers and negate their feelings or concerns by making any statement that could be construed as a blanket indictment against all of them. Furthermore, in moving forward, I did not believe it was appropriate for this conversation to be played in the court of public opinion amongst irresponsible hack journalism and media reporting and the gutter that is social media. It was thus that I asked the FOP Executive Board to sit down and meet with the Police Department command staff to discuss their concerns. I had even arranged for a third-party mediator to assist in facilitating constructive discussion and resolution. Members of the FOP Board came to my office and in no uncertain terms told me no and demanded my immediate resignation. Now that you have ceded control of the Police Department to the Fraternal Order of Police, I believe it's time for the community receives a fuller accounting of the FOP's actions and conduct. I maintain that no one representing themselves as the FOP ever attempted to meet with me. Of course, the FOP will tell you they tried and I dismissed them. However, the FOP also claims they had no intention for the survey to be public or to go to the media. Yet I believe someone should ask the Casper Star Tribune how it was they might have received a copy of the survey prior to the mayor providing them a copy. It would also be worthwhile to know what FOP officers the Star Tribune has been meeting with for months in the context of those conversations. And speaking of journalistic integrity and reporting on surveys and votes, has any of you or the media bothered to research or look up push polling? Does it make any sense that a chief would not meet with the FOP? Particularly when the president of the FOP is a Casper Police Department command staff officer. Of course, I didn't know that. I didn't find that out until after the survey was released, and that officer never came and told me. I learned of it secondhand. So this leads me to my greatest concern about the survey. The board of the FOP clearly knows the allegations listed are baseless, fabricated, and or grossly misrepresented. One such gross misrepresentation was that nearly the entirety of command staff, minus one, requested to meet with the city manager in April of 2016. Let me be clear, this is not true. 3 members of the command staff out of 7 requested to meet with the city manager. After meeting with them, the city manager then subsequently requested a meeting with all the command staff, in which I was included. The issues and concerns raised by the 3 members were discussed. The FOP is being blatantly dishonest in suggesting a different account. So is it any wonder that none of them wanted to put their name on the survey's allegations? After all, when you don't put your name on it, you can't be held accountable for making a false accusation. Additionally, when you strip away all the emotional fervor, the exaggeration, and the hyperbole in the survey, there's a very disconcerting theme. Embedded within many of the comments is a rebellion against accountability. It would seem there are officers policing this community that feel they should not be accountable to anyone or anything. They should be able to do what they want, when they want, and how they want. An officer in the survey states, quote, cops dislike civilians, vice versa, unquote. As chief, that was frightening. Now as a citizen, that's horrifying. Why doesn't this bother anyone? Another one suggests we, quote unquote, shut down individuals alleging victimization or other individuals who speak out against or criticize the police department or its officers. Again, no comment from any of you? Much of the language in the comments is vile, nasty, and crude. To include the comment, Councilwoman Huckabee felt compelled to publicly read with reprehensible motive to humiliate me. Yet the officer who wrote that, is that the officer you want coming into your house to take a report from your daughter or sister who's just been sexually assaulted? The FOP slams me for not having a vision. My vision was clear. The Casper Police Department is a professional police organization of irrefutable noble character, respected and trusted by the entirety of the community and its citizens to guard their freedoms, safety, and security. I had a vision for the Casper Police Department, and I will not apologize for focusing that vision on nobility and on moral and ethical character, conduct, and standards. It is those elements further embedded in core values of integrity, human dignity, justice, professionalism, and leadership that are the bedrock of why and how we fulfill our duty. The conduct of the Fraternal Order of Police should be concerning to all of our community. Police officers investigate whether someone might have broken the law. They fairly and impartially gather facts that lead to a conclusion. Someone broke the law or not. If they decide someone broke the law, they turn the facts in their investigation over to a prosecutor. When called, they testify about what they know and learn based on their investigation. A jury or judge decides the ultimate question. I have never in my lifetime observed police officers, whether active or retired, engaged in an extended conspiratorial and malicious character assassination as has occurred here. The FOP conducts a survey deliberately designed to trash the chief of police. Thereafter, the FOP takes the votes on questions deliberately selected to lead to an unfavorable criticism of the chief. Along with the vote results, they include pages of unfounded allegations against the chief, and they ensure the information is provided to the press. Then someone tells the Casper Star-Tribune about the differences between the DA's and the chief's deposition testimony in the Hedquist case, leading to an unfavorable article in the newspaper for both the DA and the chief. Council members clearly collude to try and stop and delay an independent outside analysis of the department, supported by the chief and the city manager. Only days later, one of those council members demands a criminal investigation and other inquiries based on baseless and fabricated allegations in the FOP letter. That letter mysteriously gets leaked to the press. Isn't it obvious there is a group of people driven by unconscionable, targeted, hate-filled personal motive? Isn't it deeply concerning that any group of people, especially sworn police officers and sitting elected officials, would be so driven and threaten to ruin someone's career and take away their ability to pursue their profession? What would happen if a sworn Casper police officer targeted a charged criminal defendant this way? If any officer involved in a criminal investigation acted the way the FOP have acted here, they would likely be fired and certainly be found to be in contempt of court. The concerted witch hunts on the part of people in power in our city government is obvious to many in the community. The actions of council members and the leadership of the Fraternal Order of Police is outlandish and far from the type of behavior and actions that should be engaged in by sworn, retired, or former officers and elected officials. In fact, these actions of these individuals is directly contrary to the honor, professionalism, and ethical code we demand of our law enforcement officers and those we elect to serve us. It was fully within the interim city manager's authority to terminate my contract. It was also within her right and authority prior to terminating my contract to meet with the executive board of the FOP in an abandoned building downtown one afternoon a couple of weeks ago. It was also within her right to not once ever seek possible clarifying testimony or explanation from me concerning what she was being told. You applaud her for the due diligence and leadership she displayed. Let's be clear, no credible industry leader or executive would define such conduct as leadership, let alone find these actions acceptable or thorough. There was no due diligence, and there was little semblance of due process afforded me. Last fall, City Manager V.H. McDonald invited me to come before you in a Thursday council leadership meeting, where I identified the many issues and challenges the police department was facing, some of which span back over a decade. I shared with you a long list of personnel issues and concerns, and a chronic pervasive problem of displacement and deflection of blame and accountability in the department that was indicative of ingrained and embattled culture. I shared with you many issues, both cultural and procedural, including several procedural and organizational overhaul projects that were underway, but that given the scope and depth of the many issues, these were not problems that could or would be fixed overnight. How quickly an anonymous, inflammatory, publicly released survey demanding action from you erased your memories. This has been a display of political cowardice unlike anything I've ever seen. As a council, you've been complicit with an unaccountable FOP leadership to create an untenable environment purposely and egregiously constructed to undermine my leadership and remove any ability for me to manage the police force. Nonetheless, I've received an immense outpouring of support from the community I've served all these years. I'm truly honored and blessed to have had the opportunity to serve the community I have called home for my entire life. I thank the multitude of individuals who have reached out to me with prayers and words of encouragement. Although I leave under such disappointing circumstances, I do remain clear of conscience, knowing I was true and uncompromised in my oath and commitment to the citizens of this community. Every decision I made was moral, ethical, and legal, and meant in the purest of heart to strengthen this community's police department, and in turn provide you, citizens, the protection and police service you deserve and should demand. To the officers and members of the Casper Police Department, I've led many men and women over 20 years in a multitude of environments around the world. You've challenged me in my leadership, and for what it's worth, I leave here a much wiser and better man because of it. In the aftermath of all that has unfolded, I ask each of you to go back and reread your oath in the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics. If you remain true to your code and your oath, press on in your service, hold your head high, embrace and embody the core values, and go guard and protect this community. If you find that maybe you have compromised yourself, start with why. Reflect on and re-examine why you came into this profession. At your core, why do you pin on the badge every day and for whom? Be honest with yourself and be sure you firmly and intimately understand why you're a police officer and whom you serve. make your internal amends, and then hit the reset button and go be better than you were. With that said, I urge all of you in the community to demand to know what this quote-unquote new and different direction of the police department is. I was very clear in what I believed was the needed direction of the police department in service to all of you. It troubles me now as a citizen in the community that city management apparently finds that direction improper and unsuitable. For the last several months, I've silently accepted and been subjected to repeated public flogging and tar and feathering without any ability to give my voice. So here now are my final words to the community. There's a quote from Robert F. Kennedy in which he says, "Every society gets the kind of criminal it deserves. What is equally true is that every community gets the kind of law enforcement it insists on." Make no mistake, Casper. Right now, you're getting the kind of law enforcement that an unaccountable fraternal order of police, an interim city manager, and an irresponsible city council insisted on. Do not forget that this is your police department, and the conduct and actions of its members are accountable to you. Thank you for your time.